Hello everybody. We're starting off with chord. Um, so yeah, it's definitely improved from the last version. I think that you can continue to work on the eyes and eyelids. They're looking a little sunken. The other thing is that you've added a lot of edges in here. Oops. But they're all kind of pretty close together. And they're not really doing that much to form the eyelids. You kind of want to, start pulling these in. I mean, I might kind of take a step back with these. I'm doing Control Delete. Yeah, I mean, this is, pretty close to the edge of the eye, but let's maybe take this, Shift double click, move that back a little bit. Yeah, and these guys are pretty far forward. And that's part of the thing is it's, with that you have this almost sort of shelf here. I think that's making things a little tricky. So I might move this up some. Maybe move this back a little bit. I should have mirror on, I don't, but you can always just mirror the whole character afterwards. Well, it's good because you can compare the two sides. You see you have all this extra detail here, but it's not really adding much to the shape. So the trick with all this stuff is that every time you add an edge, you need to really work with all the points of the edge that you're adding. Yeah, beware little areas that look really tight like that. I don't know. It needs some attention, but anyways, once you've kind of formed it more, then add. I've got my Camtasia thing up. Then add, an edge loop, and then go in and move all those points. And I don't want to spend all day on this. Obviously, this one. But start pulling these out and kind of moving them in and down and shaping them to the eye. And start building off that lid. So on and so forth. Again, I'm not going to do this. And then, shape that and work on the shape and then add another one and then another, and then shape each of those individually. And so I think what's happened here is it looks like there's a lot of stuff added, but you have this kind of weird ridge there and a lot of dense detail, and it's not really giving the eye much shape. Anyway, it's workable. I would look out for this. See how tight these are, and then how stretched those are. So I would look to even those out a little bit. This is where maybe using a surface slide might be nice to kind of. It's a way to sort of change the shape. Change the topology without changing the shape too much, because it'll sort of slide along wherever, according to the shape of the surface. Look how stretched that is. Well, I guess the nice thing about not having mirror on is you can very quickly and easily compare. You're starting to see how on this side of the face I'm getting it where the topology is more even, where each face is closer to the same side, whereas on the other side you have these very long ones and these very tight ones. Um, and yeah, you'll probably have to go back in a little bit and adjust the shape, but get the topology right and then go in and tweak the shape to be more like what you want. And frankly, it's not even that different right now, but you have much better topology now on this side, and you can keep going. You just look out anything that looks too sort of stretched or pinched. You want to think about adjusting. Anyway, yeah, and I'd look at these arms and I would say, very quickly, anytime you add an edge, you need to adjust the shape. So what it looks like to me is that some of these edges were added without the shape being adjusted, because you get these kind of characteristics. See how that stuff's in sort of a straight line there, which to me says there was just, it looks different now, but when you do smooth, but that means to me that this edge was added, but you didn't go around and kind of lovingly position all the points. And the hand is, I think what's going on here too is that you might want to, you could terminate some of these into triangles at the hand to, or you can just get in here and really, model these. You have a lot of detail here. Get the shape of the, the metatarsal bones in there. Get some shape. You have plenty of stuff to get a little more knuckle going on here. It's good that you have 3 edges around the fingers, but I would, spread them out a little bit. So, and then go in and kind of shape the knuckle a little bit more. And I guess you have a little bit here. You've pushed those in, so that's good. I just think you could take it a little further. But yeah, clearly more you can do more on the back of the hand, more on the front of the hand. You've got the detail to do it. And I can see that you've done some here, but I think just keep going a little bit. That's on a flat straight line. You could kind of round out that edge there. And same on this side. It looks awfully thick on this side too. Anyways, I'm spending a lot of time on this model. Honestly, it's good. It's usable. If you had to use it, if you had to rig it right now, it would work. So I just think, but it's worth putting some more time into. I would argue that his head looks a little small, and maybe that's the kind of the cartoony look you want, but it looks a little odd to me. I would tend to pull out the back a little bit more. B for soft select, B click and drag to make that bigger. That looks a little funny because it's taking the neck with it, but at first glance this might look a little weird, but if you look at the real proportions of a head, there's a lot more, forehead. Really the eyes are only halfway up on the face, so turning into alien. Okay. Anyways, I'm kind of doing this a little quick and dirty, but you can kind of, I think you might be able to see that having some more forehead and having a little bit more back to the head, it gives it a more natural shape, and his chin is awfully sharp and small too. So anyways, lots of stuff you could keep working on. It's good, it's solid, it'll work, but you could keep going to make it better. So let's see who's next. So we have Christy. And Christy, I think I think I'm just going to ask everybody, just please always delete your history before you turn your file in. I know that's in the instructions, and frankly, this is not normally a problem I have in this class or any class, but it's happening this term for whatever strange reason. So, I'm sure your models don't look actually like that. And you can see this one doesn't have history on it, and it comes in fine. So, yeah, that's looking cool. Looks good. Modern juicer. I think, Yeah, we looked at this before. It looks like there's a little bit of asymmetry here. And yeah, I keep seeing this where people are combining the eyeballs with the body, and I don't know why people are doing that. Don't do that. You can just separate them afterwards, but I'm not sure why I keep seeing that. So yeah, I think if I remember correctly, a lot of this is cleaned up from before. You still have some intersecting faces on here. Um, it's kind of light enough where we could just take the whole thing and smooth it. And let's see how that turns out. Where are my smooth? Yeah, I mean that's going to give you pretty good amount of topology to work with. So I would go ahead and smooth it one level, and you can see that. Yeah, it's just divisions 1. Definitely don't go above that. But now you have sufficient topology to work with. I would get back in here and put a little bit more detail into the knees, maybe put a couple more edge loops in there and shape the kneecap and those kinds of things. Probably couldn't use another one here on the feet. One thing you can do to kind of clean this up a little bit is, oops, let me turn off my soft select, B for soft select. Oops. Oh, interesting. Oh, yeah, because this triangle there is not going all the way around. Because that's looking, just a little pinchy and odd. So what you can do is take the loop and take the scale tool and flatten that out and see how that kind of cleans up the topology nicely. Compare it to its neighbor. And then what's nice about that too is if you put in another edge loop, if it'll let us, I'm not sure it's going to let us. No, it's doing kind of a crazy thing there. But what I might do is, whoops. Just take this and hold down shift and just slice straight through there, and then, oops. Yeah, you got a little bit more just to work with when the foot starts bending. And yeah, again, and I might go around and select these edges and flatten those out too. There's enough triangles and stuff that it doesn't want to let me double click to get all the way around. Oops. Button scale and kind of flatten that out. Something like that. And just because that's in a straight line doesn't mean you can't go in and sort of tweak these and maybe round out the foot and maybe get some more detail on the bottom of the foot, like maybe like pull it up in the middle or something. B, hold down B, click and drag. You can get in there and add more detail, that kind of thing. Yeah, overall looking good. And if you want to go ahead and delete history and resubmit the props, that would be great. Okay, next we have Yuri. He's worked on the hands and feet and the props. He mentioned he downloaded these guns, and in general, as much as possible, I like to see you create everything yourself, but the most important thing is if you ever decide to include somebody else's work in any form in your work, the most important thing is that you credit them for that. And you can see that Yuri has done so right here, which is good. But, to the greatest extent possible, I'd like to see you guys model your stuff. But again, if it's included and it's credited, that can be okay. If it's included and it's not credited, that can be considered plagiarism, which we take very seriously. But Yuri's good. I'm not, it's all good. Let's open the file. So again, much like last time I was saying, this is very good. You can see it's maybe denser than it needs to be, but that's okay. It's really good topology. You can see that the the faces are fairly even in size, that there's not, very pinched or very stretched areas. Couple things he worked on. So he separated out these teeth from the mouth, which is good. I think you could kind of flesh out the lip shape. I kind of wish this was a little less dense because it would make it easier to work with. But so what I might do is let's turn off for at least a moment. Like if I wanted to, well, actually let's just pick this one, and this will be a good example to turn on my symmetry. Not symmetrical. Okay, you might want to remirror that to get that symmetrical. I'll just do that, and then I will deselect the part that I do not want. Hold down Control and deselect. And I'm going to use B, and then hold down B and click and drag. Yeah, I can see I have that lower lip pretty good. And then now to kind of fatten it out, I might use that trick with the Move tool and turn on Normal. And where is it? I should be able to see the manipulator, but I'm not seeing it when I do that. I might have to convert to vertices. There's a trick for that too. If you hold down Control Shift right mouse click, Control right mouse click, two vertices, and see it changes the selection of vertices. And now will it show me the normals? Yes. Okay. And so you'll see it, instead of XYZ, you see UVN, and it's a little hard to see, but this is the N. And see how it's kind of like fattening out that lower lip that way? It's pushing it in the normal direction. That is the direction. And I might want to increase my selection. I'm going to use, let's turn this off just so you can see what I'm doing better. I'm going to use the greater than symbol, that's Shift period, and kind of grow that out a little bit. Just to get a few more rows on there. And then I might take off this top, Control select those, deselect those, and then again a little bit of soft select. Yeah, so you got a little bit more of that. Make sure I'm dragging on that N. And you see how I was just making that lower lip fatter? It's kind of a cool trick, I think. And then maybe I'll go, let me just hit B again just so it's easier to see my selection. Maybe just the middle, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. There we go. Okay, and then B again for soft select, and then make sure I select the N for normal. Just make it a little even thicker in the middle. I mean, it doesn't look like that different yet, but you might just keep going with that and kind of flesh it out a little bit, and maybe do the opposite here. Maybe kind of flatten these out here. Another kind of cool tool is the Sculpt Geometry tool. Right mouse click, Paint, Sculpt. You can let me just reset the tool to begin with. See, it's got like that red circle represents the brush size, so I'll hold down B and then click and drag. I can reduce the brush size. I'm just going to use smooth right here. This is the smooth on it, and I'm going to turn on, under stroke there is reflection, so that does both sides at the same time. And let's see what happens if we just kind of smooth on this, how that does. Pretty good. Yeah, just to kind of flatten out. And just with each click it smooths a little bit more. Oops. And it might be interesting to just curious what happens if this one's called pinch, because I just want to sort of pinch these together a little bit, see how that does. Not very good. I might increase the brush strength. This might go nuts here. No? Yeah, maybe. And maybe go back and smooth it some more. Anyways, the point is you could keep going with these lips a little bit. But yeah, very good that you separated out the teeth. We were going to look at the hands a little bit more. I'm just going to hide these guns. Control H. Yeah, these are definitely improved. The hands. I would argue maybe they're a little bit too flat on the side, and they're kind of on the thick side. But you know, it's a bunny, so who knows? How it's a humanoid bunny. Oh yeah, and I like that you've separated out the toes a little bit. That looks a little nicer. Good. Yeah, from this was already really good, and it's only gotten better. So you're doing a great job. I didn't spend much time on the props, but yeah, it looks good. Yeah, no problems here. I'm a little curious about all this extra geometry here. I don't see that adding any detail, so I'm wondering why all that's there. You may want to remove those edges unless they're adding some kind of detail I don't see. And again, you have this tendency, I think, to over smooth a little bit. This is denser than I'd like to see it be. You might want to make your sword a little smaller so it doesn't intersect the sheath. Yeah, bunny tail looks good. Grenades. Yeah, looking really good. Yeah, some nice hard surface modeling there. I would tend to say that, and again, you're in a stylized world, so who knows, but these, what do they call that part of the grenade? I don't even know. But that part that you pull off, that looks really wide to me, so maybe more narrow. It might read as a grenade more, I'm guessing, but I'm not any kind of weapons authority or anything. So yeah, anyways, great job. It's looking really good. It's going to be a very usable, very good model. All right, we've got James here. And yeah, pretty good looking character and some weapons. He's mentioning fixing the spine area. He's got a 5-sided polygon he's got a question about. Worked on the hands. It's going to have him live in a cave. So let's take a look at that. Alright, so we've got some terrain here. I don't know if your plan is to scale this up really huge or what, but I'm just going to get that out of the way for the moment. Like this. Yeah, he's looking good. He's got kind of a, sort of a proportions of a kind of a hero or warrior kind of character, which is cool. And let's take a look at the face. Yeah, that's got some good structure going on. That's looking pretty nice. The eyelids, got something a little funny going on with the eyelids here. I think that you've tried to shape these a little too extremely. So I would just are we gonna get symmetry there? Yay! Oh, let's get back to the normal mode. And do I have something? Yeah, I've got some other points selected. Okay. Yeah, try not to go for these sort of real extreme stuff you got going on here, because again, it seems like you were trying to give it a little bit more expression, and you don't. We'll add the expression in our blend shapes later. So let's make this a little bit more neutral, and then you can go back in there. And I also think look at the thickness of this eyelid. So let's move these back a bunch. And yeah, you've got some sort of tight stuff going on here. Yeah, and look at these guys. That's a bit of a concern that, whoops. There we go. Kind of pulling some of these things apart a bit. try to even out this topology a little bit. Okay, so now it's starting to look a little bit more sound as far as just the topology and the shapes and stuff. And then I would kind of go back in and, you know, start adding some more loops and fleshing out that eyelid some, as I've demonstrated before, like this little tuft of hair at the front here. It's cool. Why am I not? Maybe a little bit more of a mouth cavity to kind of, you know, so we're not seeing that whole surface there, to kind of add some more detail here and have it kind of go up and in, you know, like this. Anyways, though, good face. Yeah, good fundamental structure there. This looks a little puffy to me, but I guess it's alright. Hands, yeah, I feel like these fingers need work. Just more detail, you know, let's get a couple edge loops around each of the joints. Kind of shape the knuckles a little bit, maybe get, you know, another edge loop going along the top, and you know, with those extra edge loops you can push in the middle to get that kind of bump there. So yeah, the hands need more detail, and I would do that before, you know, I tried smoothing. And you've got some lots of weird stuff going with the thumb that needs a bunch of attention. But yeah, it's just kind of need to be a little bit pulled apart. Yeah, and look at this very pinched kind of face here. So we're going to want to spread that out a little bit. Anyways, yeah, it needs some more work and some more edge loops to work with, I think, as you get in there. That's a little bit better. But yeah, keep going on the hands. Maybe pull out a little bit more of an elbow bone here, so that's more obvious. Why is it not selecting the surface? Okay, and we've got these overlapping faces here. I can see what you've done where you're trying to. Why is this extra surface on top here? We duplicate. Oh, did I do that? Or do you have this? Yeah, I see what we've got going on here. So it looks like you've modeled the whole body and then put clothes over it. Now, the only time you would ever want to do that is if you were going to do cloth, and we are not going to do cloth in this class. It's just its own little project all its own. So you really only need to have a model of what we're going to see, and in this case, yeah, we can get rid of all that. So what I've got now is that, and I might be able to keep going like this back to where it was, 0 hopefully, yeah. So now I won't have, when I'm rigging and moving him, I will have way less problems with him intersecting the surfaces of his clothing, but who would know? You won't even know. So yeah, you're going to want to smooth at some point once you're kind of real happy with this, and you could probably smooth this now. It's weird, my shelf stuff disappeared. And actually that looks pretty good. For the weapons, let's take a look. I think these, I mean, frankly, there's not too much to say about them. They look very good, well built, and good construction and good proportions. Yeah, I think those will work well. Not too much to critique. All right, good work all around there. Okay, we have Joseph here. And let's take a look at the model. So yeah, right off the bat, this is looking really good. A lot of character to it. I can tell you put some real time and effort into the face. And what's also nice to see is it's got a fair amount of kind of interesting detailed shapes with not a really dense topology. But yeah, some things are beholden to more of an extreme than I'd probably like to see. But not too, look out for these overlapping faces here and here. I would clean those up and maybe try to tone down some of these real extreme pushed and pulled stuff. And I think you're also at a point where you could probably smooth. And that helps with some of that as well, just the smooth itself. So let's just assuming you smooth it. But I think, yeah, maybe before you smooth, though, one thing you could work on is these fingers. Typically, you'd have your middle finger being longer and the pinky being shorter, and kind of varying the index and ring finger a little bit, and just maybe get a little more shape to this hand. It's looking very blocky right now. So you could spend a little bit of time on that. And yeah, the way these toes are built, I think they could use more detail, and they're also really overlapping each other. And I can see, oh, you're looking at smooth, they don't, but still, yeah, let's get it started a little bit more sound and not have those intersect each other, so you can spend a little more time working on the toes. And you've got a little bit of a funny, yeah, I think again you're pulling stuff really far to get those shapes, but I would work on those a bit and then go ahead and smooth one level and then kind of work some more on it. I think that you'll save yourself a lot of trouble by not having. You can see that he's got all of his surfaces under there, and we don't really need that for the so it's just going to cause more trouble than it's worth. So anything we don't see, you can get rid of. We could easily. We have the belly there showing through the shirt, so maybe not everything, but I mean, this might add some annoyances when we're rigging to have these kind of different pieces there. But it's kind of worth it to not have to worry about the shirt intersecting the body when he starts moving around. Do you have an inside and an outside of the shirt? Or is that just his body underneath it? I guess it's alright. I don't know, I was looking kind of weird. See that, like, let me just move this over, see if it's still, yeah, you'd want to clean that up if you're going to get rid of those. I mean, you can leave it, with integrity. It's annoying when you're rigging it because, oh yeah, you have a whole inside. Oh, I see, you've kind of wrapped it up to a certain point, or is it? Well, is it truly fully double-sided? It looks good, it's just that you can run into problems with the shirt intersecting itself. What I tend to do more of is, rather than having this being like totally watertight, I tend to like you've done, wrap the bottom and then just go up like maybe 2 or 3 rows and then end it there and get rid of say, for example, everything above that row. Just so you don't have to deal with stuff intersecting. Just undoing there. Yeah, but anyways, looking really great. And this black thing, it could be one of two things. It may not have been like that in your file. I'm finding that sometimes when I open these, it seems like something happens with the normals. But normal, you can fix that by reversing the normals. Oh, no. What's the error? Current selection doesn't, okay, wants me to select the faces of it, I guess. Oh, is this, this is nerves. Right. Okay, and I see the inside is, yeah, I mean, on nerves, you might want to convert it to polygons. If you were going to do that, well, first of all, if I can remember, somewhere in here, yeah, they got double-sided on, so sometimes that's why you one side would turn black with nerves. But what I might just do is modify, convert nerves to polygons options, and I like using control point tessellate, and you can see, those are looking about the same. 3 for smooth, or you can actually run the smooth command. Let's see what happens if I reverse the normals now. Normals, reverse, yeah, now it looks normal again. So that's what I would tend to do. Yeah, looking really good. Got Joseph Gallup here, and he's got the bodybuilder character. So this looks like another one of those. I can see that the history is on here. Let's just have you resubmit after you delete history. But even given that, from what I can see, I'm sure your model doesn't look like that with that mess there. But from what I can see, you look kind of behind, and I would tend to, again, I can judge it once you delete history and turn it back in again, but I would tend to think you're at a point where it'd be more work to kind of clean this up than it would be to just start over, and just make sure you're really following those videos very closely. And if not, and if you're at a point where the thing is, this course moves on pretty quickly, so you might just be falling behind if you try to remodel a character. So just get in touch, because, and this goes for anyone too, if you want, I can just give you guys a stock character to use, and then you can proceed through the course doing the subsequent assignments with that. Because right now it's certainly not usable in the state that it's in, and I suspect even when you send me the one after you've deleted the history that doesn't have some of this stuff going on, that it won't be either. So at this point, it's either A, remodel it from scratch, really follow the videos closely to get the right topology, or B, use a stock character moving forward. So this is Lupita. She said had some trouble with the crossbow. Let's take a look. So first of all, looking at the character, yeah, looking good. Topology looks clean and even. The character is maybe a bit generic looking, so you might want to look for areas to give it more character, kind of do a little more. There's something a little funny, you might want to indicate the knees a little bit better, because when I look at it, it sort of looks like the knees are, way down here, and obviously that'd be too low, so they'd probably be more something like here, but the shape doesn't reflect that, so kind of model out shape, so at least a hint of a kneecap, and kind of maybe get that calf to look like it's going up a little higher to get the proportions better. Yeah, you're getting a lot of 5-sided faces here, and I can understand why you ended up doing that, just to get the extra detail around the eye, but it would be a good idea to resolve those, and the easiest way, and you can see it's 5-sided, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and there was that quick way, if I can remember again, the under select using constraints, and what was it, order n-sided on the next selection, is that it? Close and remember. Oh yeah, that worked. Okay, I just said they were so small I didn't see them. So yeah, you can quickly see all your 5-sided faces here, And yeah, I mean, the easiest way, since you have all these, is a way in which you're going to end up with a lot of triangles, but that's not the worst thing in the world. But you generally don't want this. So what I could do is just, stuff like that. Um, I mean, you can find opportunities to turn some of these into quads again. Like if I select that, control backspace, and now that's actually a four-sided face again. But then that's a four-sided face there. So 2, 3, 4, and then here's another, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So, and the other thing, like right here, actually, this might be kind of a good opportunity because it looks like this nose could use more detail. So I might take this guy and go straight across to here, if it'll let me, which it will not. Maybe just do 50%. I'm holding down shift so that 50% thing pops up on each of these. I don't know why it didn't let me go straight across. And that way at least I know it's symmetrical if I do that. So that's kind of a nice way to resolve that one. And yeah, and then again here, might do something like that. But then you could always take out this control backspace and even kind of move this down a little bit. Oops. This looks like a pretty stretched out face. So, anyways, yeah, if you're gonna have those, do look to resolve them so you're not getting those five-sided faces one way or another. And again, you don't love to see a bunch of triangles, but it gets pretty tricky pretty quickly to make everything quads, especially when you're trying to do what you did, which is, add the detail here but not have it continue on to the rest of the face. So, and then the props, yeah, I mean, again, I think that, the answer to improve this, I don't know exactly what problems you're referring to, but, I really encourage looking at reference. So get a reference image of a crossbow. I'm sure you can find plenty online and really study that and really try to match it as closely as possible to get it to look believable, add the details, those kinds of things. Baseball bat looking good, pretty straightforward. Axe looks good. Nice handle. Okay. Yeah, good work. This is Rick and his forest merchant character. He cleaned up his endgons, which is good. So let's take a look at that. Yeah, I'm gonna, you're gonna want to look out for this belt intersecting the character right here. So adjust the position of that belt, and that might be a good, probably just use soft select here. WB for soft select. Increase that, maybe to something like that. And you could just kind of pull it out. Maybe use this little thing right here. Obviously you want it to be symmetrical as well. I find this shape here to be a little, I don't know, funny. It doesn't look very like it's tied to any topology. And then the shoulders maybe could be, maybe a little bit more rounded this way and maybe come up a little bit more there. The neck it's kind of in this sort of extreme pose where it's like, almost reminds me of like kind of a bird, like a swan neck, where it's really bent back and the head curves forward. So it'd be good to have it in a little bit more of a neutral position. So, whoops, I didn't mean to do that. I'm doing the greater than symbol. we just gotta select it from the front. Just control select to get rid of some of that. Oops. Oh, missed some. Control shift select. And control shift. Hey. Doesn't want to select. Let's switch to component mode. There we go. Anyways, you get the idea. See what I've done with the neck there, where it looks straighter to start out with. Yeah, and you've got just some odd extremes here. You know, I might kind of try to make this neck a little bit more like a cylinder shape, and it's got this, you know, it's pushed way back there, and it's kind of squared off on the side, so sort of round that out. Yeah, and again, the legs are bowed, and I'd made it maybe in the design, but I might straighten them out a little bit just to make rigging not difficult. And the feet also are looking kind of skewed. You know, you'd probably want these flat on the ground, and then also just get a little more shape in there. You don't have a lot of detail. You can add a couple loops in and, you know, round out the corners and get a little more foot shape going on. Yeah, look out right here. You've got some, yeah, again, some extremes there where it's getting pretty pinched. I might do something like that. Yeah, and even this is something in here is all the way overlapped. Went too far, but yeah, and these, you know, you've got these extra edges here, but they're not really helping define the shape of the leg. So really, you know, I would probably take something like this whole group and kind of move that back a little bit. But then get in there with each one and really help it define the shape of the leg, you know. And then this too, or at least from here. Whoops, didn't mean to do that. You know, sort of spreading it out, but then really get in and move the individual points around and shape the leg more and maybe get them straightened a little bit. I think, yeah, props were in a separate file, which is ultimately, you guys should all do that. Why does that look, oh, do you have a, I don't know why that looks so crazy. That looks more normal. Okay, yeah, pretty straightforward stuff, you know, 3 revolves, nothing too crazy. You might want to create a profile with some thickness here for both of these. Although I might convert them to polygons, and again, I would use the control points, something like that, and then it would be pretty easy to give something like this some thickness, because I could just take all the faces, edit mesh, extrude face, you know, and then now you've got some thickness. So, all right, well, good work on that. We've got Ebron here. Ebron did start over and says it's going better the second time around, so good to hear. Yeah, so obviously you're kind of behind, and it looks like you do have loops around the mouth. Looks like maybe you are not going by the tutorial for the head. I'm not sure. Maybe you are. I don't know. So, but yeah, you want to like start getting the eyes in there. Make sure you have loops around the eyes, however you do it. And you know, obviously you have a ways to go with the rest of this, so there's not too much to say except keep on going. But the body is looking pretty sound now, so you know, I think it's gonna, you know, move ahead in a good way if you keep going. But yeah, not too much to critique at this point. It's just, you know, however you're making the head, make sure that when you do have the eyes, that you have edge loops going around the eyes. All right. Keep going. Okay, so we got Josh here, and let's take a look. Let's open that up real quick. Okay. Yeah, I got some nice looking tools here. It's kind of funny with the bare legs and the belt. So probably gonna want to clothe him, I imagine, or not, whatever we want. It's an art school, right? So yeah, I think the hands need some more tension. Like I've mentioned on some other ones, make sure you have some edge loops at the knuckles at each of the joints here, and kind of shape those knuckles a little bit more. Thumb could probably be a bit longer than you have it, and again, more detail there. And the fingers are kind of just look a little kind of pointy at the end. Maybe they could be fleshed out. This is kind of a big guy. Yeah, face is looking good. Like I've done on the others, some of the other ones, start adding these edge loops, for the eyes, around the eyes, and whoops, bring those in, and I'm doing it really quick and dirty, but really shape this to the eye and start adding more loops and getting more of an eyelid going in there. Yeah, I think you want to probably add some detail to this beard a little bit too. You might get away with just smoothing it. That might work just like that. I'm a little concerned if we got some stuff going on. Did I just do that? I might have just done that. I'm just undoing, yeah. Got some pretty tight areas in here, but yeah, it's a little bit of a strange section there, but okay, yeah, I just undid back. But I guess it's not too bad. It says a mouth have a cavity. Yeah, you go. Lips going on here. Maybe a bit of a bigger mouth cavity. Maybe going like in like that more. Whereas right now you're kind of just like that. Just shoulders. Get some more detail on the forearm. You'll need it. And yeah, like legs have some real shape. Yeah, so work on some of those areas, especially the hands that I mentioned. A couple things on the face. Go ahead and smooth the whole thing, and yeah, the props are looking nice, moving along well. So yeah, looking good overall. Nice work. I think that's the last one. So yeah, good work everybody, and let's keep on moving forward.